I'm going to introduce these guys, and then after we introduce them, I want them to talk a little bit about the path that they took to where they are. So over here is Jay Sloves. Then we have, because I'm more embarrassing, Mike Abramson and Chris Lawrence from the Excel Center, known to older folks like me as the Civic Center. So if you could just go down, start with you, Jay, and talk a little bit about what you do and how you got here.
Okay. Long journey for me. I've been doing this business for a long time. I always like to open up with a fun little story about these two farmers. And there was this farmer came across another farmer, and he was kind of kicking his mule. And the other farmer asked, "Why are you kicking the mule?" He said, "Well, I'm trying to get the mule up and working." And the other farmer says, "You don't have to kick the mule to get the mule up and working." And the other farmer says, "Okay, what do you do?" So the second farmer picked up a nearby 2x4 piece of wood, about 4 feet long, and smacked that mule as hard as he could right between the eyes. And sure enough, that mule is up and working. Well, the first farmer says, "I thought you don't say you need to abuse the mule to get it to working." He says, "You don't, but first you got to get their attention." That's what marketing's about. And I started as an engineering major at the University of Connecticut. I didn't understand why the bridge would stay up, so I got out of that and got into journalism and into psychology. And soon after that, I was an editor of the Daily Campus, the features section. And when I was there, one of your jobs was to write headlines. And you had 1 o'clock in the morning, you had to come up with a short, brief statement about what the whole story was about. That's how I started thinking about how marketing and how to get the messages out. After that, when I graduated UConn, I turned down some jobs in writing, and then eventually ended up in marketing. So I wasn't a marketing major in college, but the things that I learned at UConn helped me become a marketing person. And back in the 80s, when I was just a kid, just about your age, I started an ad agency called Elkinson and Sloves. I'm the Sloves part. And our first client was the Hartford Whalers hockey team. That's how we got into the marketing side of it. We did the Whalers for about 10 years. We started doing a lot of some cool projects. We worked for ESPN, CBS Sports, went down to the Masters, went to St. Andrews in Scotland, NHL All-Star Game, Major League Baseball. But the cool stuff that I find really intriguing for what I do is to help market local sports entities, sports and community-based entities. It doesn't necessarily have to be a sports entity. We did the presidential debate when it was here in Connecticut back in the 90s. I really like doing that kind of work of marketing, branding, creating the total package on how to get a message out about a project. So that's what I do.
Talk to us about you, Mike, your journey, and what you do.
Sure. My name's Mike Abramson. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for the New Britain Rockcats. We're the AA baseball affiliate of the Minnesota Twins. How many of y'all are familiar with the minor league, Major League Baseball structure? Pretty good. So we're the AA affiliate. Every major league team has a AAA team, a AA team, and a few single A teams. Most of the folks that you'll meet who work in minor league baseball were interns and assistants first. About 75% of the people in our office were interns. I came in through a little bit of a less traditional route. I was a journalism major also in college, and I went to work at NPR, and I was actually an on-air reporter, if you can believe it, with my high squeaky voice for a couple of years. Then I got into managing radio stations, and I was always paying the sales guys more than I was making, and I was working harder than them. So I said, well, I'm going to get into sales, which I did, and I liked it. At that time, I went to work for a sports radio station in Boston, WEEI, which was then the highest-rated sports radio station in the country at the time. I did that for a few years. One of my clients was the Pawtucket Red Sox, who was the AAA baseball affiliate of the Boston Red Sox. They offered me a job. I went to work there for about 6 years, and then about a year and a half ago, I took an opportunity to come over to New Britain.
Wow. Chris.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Chris Lawrence. I'm a general manager of the Excel Center, Rensselaer Field, where UConn plays football, and we also oversee the business operations for the Hartford Wolfpack, which is formerly the Connecticut Whale, formerly the Hartford Wolfpack before that, AHL affiliate of the New York Rangers. So I think it'd be best if I kind of give you a little background about our company and how we got to where we are, and then I can talk about my background a little bit more. Our company and what I work for is a facility management company, Global Spectrum. We were hired July 1st through the state, through the city, to manage both the Excel Center, Rensselaer Field, and in turn, the Hartford Wolfpack business operations. So our company is a facility management company. We have about 115 accounts across the globe, primarily in North America, where we go into universities, cities, towns, municipalities, whatever it may be. And we don't necessarily own the building, we manage it for our client. Running day-to-day operations from an operations standpoint, finance, marketing, box office, ticket sales, event management, all the logistical stuff that goes into running a facility from a day-to-day standpoint. That's what our expertise are in. So I oversee both Excel, Rentschler, and then as part of our deal here, we're in charge of running the business operations. So essentially everything not affiliated with the hockey team of the Rangers. So we do all the marketing, ticket sales, community relations, public relations. That's what we're in charge of, and that ultimately falls to our bottom line. So our company is owned by Comcast Spectacor. Comcast Spectacor is a parent company of the cable company Comcast. So if you think about Comcast and then Comcast Spectacor underneath, there's 5 or 6 different entities that are underneath Comcast Spectacor. Global Spectrum is the facility management branch of that. Front Row Marketing Services is commercial rights, so sponsorships, and can also delve into premium seating for arenas. We have Ovations Food Services, which is a food and beverage provider, competes with Delaware North, Aramark, Centerplate. Basically, you go into an arena, there's a concessionaire who's providing that. We own that aspect as well. And then New Era Tickets and Paciolan, which are on the ticketing side of things, compete directly with Ticketmaster. A lot of the front-end user stuff that you guys see when you go on to buy concert tickets, game tickets, the front-end components, and then also the back-end framework of that stuff we own as well. So that's a little landscape about our company. Myself, another non-traditional route into this field. I was an HR major in college. I played collegiate hockey at Michigan State for 4 years. I'm from the Philadelphia area. So after college, I moved back home, really didn't know what I was going to do. I was a little bit older, believe it or not, when I graduated from college, as most hockey players traditionally are. I was 25 when I graduated. I got there when I was 21 and spent 4 years and was 25 by the time I got out of there. Moved back home, took a sales job in HR, kind of recruiting. So I was doing computer software engineering for venture capital-backed companies in Boston. And I'm not a computer software savvy guy, so I was on the phone with Harvard, MIT, Yale, all these computer software grads that were basically speaking gibberish to me, to be honest with you. I'm on a little headset going on Wikipedia trying to understand what they're talking to me about as I'm talking to them and trying to convince them and learn kind of what they do and then put them into positions to be successful in terms of jobs. It was a sales job. I got commission if I placed somebody at one of our companies. I did that for about a year and decided that after 20 years of playing sports and pretty competitive, I don't want to sit behind a desk for 13, 14 hours a day on the phone, getting hung up on, and just wasn't for me. I wasn't successful at it, and after a year I said, hey, I need to break away from this. This is the time to do it now. I don't want to be stuck doing this for 3, 4 years, and all of a sudden I'm 28, 29, and I'm, again, looking for another entry-level job. So with my hockey background, through a network of friends that I had from the Philadelphia area, I got hooked in with Comcast Spectacor. They had a nonprofit youth hockey organization based right out of the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia, which happened to be Comcast Spectacor's headquarters and Global Spectrum's headquarters. Got to meet some senior managers, got to meet some people through a year of doing, basically I was a life skills coach, hockey coach, teaching inner city kids in the city of Philadelphia how to play hockey. Would go and basically pulled kids off the playground. They were playing basketball and said, hey, you want to try hockey? Did that for about a year and got to know some people in the building where we worked at. And they guided me in this facility management side of things. I had no idea what it entailed. You go to a concert, you go to an arena, you go to a game, and you just, I don't expect anyone to really know what goes on behind the scenes. You just kind of think it happens, right? You don't think twice about it. You just want to go and you want to park, you want to get in, you want to see a good show or a good game, buy a beer, buy a soda, whatever it may be, have fun and be able to get out of there. You don't realize the planning and execution that goes into not only the event standpoint, but also the day-to-day life of how that kind of full life cycle works about events. So I got pushed into event management. So I worked directly with the general manager at the Wells Fargo Center and managed events and worked with all the different departments in the building. So I was the liaison between the internal teams, the tenant teams that we had in the building, and essentially our operations crew. I was the liaison between concerts and promoters as they would come in and planning 3-4 months in advance of working with the box office to make sure a show got put up and went on sale properly. So, you go in and you look at a show, a lot of times there's seats that aren't available. Well, that, you have to make sure you set that up properly, otherwise you're going to have a PR nightmare on your hands the day of a concert. Working with finance and the finance department on learning the ins and outs of a particular event, and then also, a full building, how to build a budget, how to work and manage a budget, how does each particular event and each department's expenses contrast with the revenues that are able to come in, working with the food and beverage company on a particular event to make sure that they're offering correct pricing, have the right stands open, their audience or the audience demographic that's coming through the building, we're offering menu items that cater to them to try and drive and maximize revenue opportunities. So things like that is kind of what I learned in a year and a half of doing event management. A lot of hours, spent a lot of days sleeping in my office. A concert comes in and it loads in at, these trucks come in and they're there for 18 hours. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. You have anywhere from 10 to 20 trucks and buses rolling in. And you're there, you're the key liaison, you're working with them all through the day as the stage gets built, all the production setup gets built, the show goes on, you're there all day. So normally it's anywhere from an 18 to 20 hour day for a concert for an event manager. And then you're back in the office again 8, 9 o'clock the next morning when you just left at 2 or 3 in the morning. So it's long, it's a lot of commitment, but it ultimately led me to become a general manager of a facility. So after a year and a half of event management, got a knock on my door from our CEO and said, how'd you like to run your own building? After I stumbled through my tongue for a little bit, I said, sure. And he moved me to Glens Falls, New York, which I had no idea where it was, but it's about 15 miles north of Saratoga Springs in upstate New York, small 5,000-seat arena that our company manages for the city of Glens Falls. So the city owns it, we manage it, we have a contract with them, they pay us a fee that comes out of the building's budget essentially, and then we're responsible for driving traffic through that venue and managing it from a day-to-day standpoint. So we'd probably have about 4 or 5 concerts. There was an AHL hockey team that played there, some high school sports, and really just kind of got to know the political landscape. You get to know business connections in the community, who's going to help you in certain situations, going out trying to find sponsors, really becoming a part of the community is what our organization company does. I did that for 2.5 years, and then we were awarded the contract here in Hartford and East Hartford, and through a few conversations was offered the position to run both the XL Center, Rentschler, and then obviously the business operations of the Wolfpack I oversee too. So we've been there since July 1, 8-month process, kind of been pretty eye-opening for me. It was a big jump for me, but one that I was eager and excited for. And it's been a learning curve for sure. I've had a lot of negatives kind of happen over the past 8 months, but that's part of the business. You learn to deal with it. You have to learn to deliver good news, but more importantly, you learn how to deliver bad news to clients in certain situations. And you stay calm, and that's kind of how I got to where I am right now. So been there 8 months and excited we have a 10-year contract at Excel, 7 at Rentschler. So we're here for a long term, and hopefully I can be a part of all that.
I think your remarks brought up my next question, and we can go back down here, is talk to us about getting people in the seats. Talk to us about attracting fans and what you do to do that.
Okay, I'm more of a generalist. I'm the kind of person that Chris and Mike would hire. Our job, if somebody brings us in, is to define who the market is, or help define who the market is, to find the media resources, to help brand and help come up with a message. About 10, 13 years ago, before Mike's group bought the Rockettes, there was another company that came in, and the guy who came in came from the New York Yankees. And the first rule is really know what your product is. And he wanted to sell baseball for minor league baseball. And we came back to him a week later. I hope I'm not stealing any of your thunder.
No.
Okay. I came back a week later, and we said to him that you have 2 issues. 1, the name Rockettes is a tough name to say. And 2, you're not selling baseball. Minor league baseball, all it is a picnic with a baseball game going on next to it. So you go there for the experience. It's pure entertainment. The Rockettes do a great job. They have fireworks, running the bases, great food specials. And so we came back and said, the 2 problems you have is you're selling entertainment, not baseball, and your name is tough. So we came back and repositioned, came up with a slogan called These Cats Rock. And they've been using it for the last 13 years, and there's a great jingle with it. We didn't write the jingle, but the jingle is really great, and it helped position the team. So our job is to help brand, find the message, and then find the right media to get the word out. And the media is not necessarily traditional media, running a spot on radio or television. It could be grassroots kind of stuff. The Travelers Championship, which is a PGA Tour event, when they first came here to Connecticut 7 years ago, they wanted to do outreach in the community and go to get to the media guys. And they would always have press conferences up in Hartford. And the media guys, especially from Bridgeport, New Haven, would say, hey, what about us? And so we actually built a par-3 hole in the middle of New Haven Green and had a hole-in-one contest with the media against each other. So we outreach to the media and let them get the message to their readers and the viewers down there. So there's different ways, there's different portals, different silos that you can reach people, and that's basically what kind of my job is. And you never know where the story's going to go. There's somebody else at the table who knows something that you don't know. And I'll try to make this short. A few years ago, there was a large insurance company that needed to, was moving a big stone house, a 600-ton stone house onto their property. The home was part of the Underground Railroad back in the 1830s, and they were renovating it for a group home for the blind in Hartford. And they wanted to do a essay contest on civil rights in Bloomfield and Hartford schools. And so we asked them, why are you just picking Bloomfield and Hartford schools? He says, we don't have enough time. We only have 2 months to get the word out further. So in this business, it's always networking, who you know who may know someone. So we called up a friend of ours who was a high school principal, asked him, is there any kind of principal association? And he said, yes, there is, and by the way, I'm the president of it. What do you need? He said, we need to do an essay contest on civil rights. He said, we'll love to do it. We'll get all the 8th grades involved, which is when they're really studying the Civil War period. But you can't do essays because we're essayed out. Corporations come to us all the time. What else can you do? And so we're thinking about 8th graders. You're not too far from being an 8th grader. What were some of the your hobbies, your interests as 8th graders that you liked? Anybody could just shout out. Sports. Music. You win the piece of gum. What we did was, instead of doing an essay contest on civil rights, we changed it into a lyrics writing contest on freedom. So 2 things happened there. By changing it to freedom, it's a much broader context, and by changing it to a lyrics writing contest allowed us to team up with all the DJs across the state for free advertising. So now we've created this concept of having a lyrics writing contest, and we wanted some further publicity on it. So we called up one of the keynote speakers of who's going to come to the opening of this house, and he happened to own a guitar company called Ovation Guitar. So we called him up, says, can you get one of your clients to judge the lyrics? So something that started out as essay contest in 2 towns actually ended up on MTV because the guy he got to judge the lyrics was Bon Jovi. And so Richie Sambora from the band actually flew up to Bloomfield, and MTV covered it. So when you start on a project, it's kind of tough sometimes. What's the answer? Because you got to see who's at the table, what resources are available to you, what media is available to you. We chose the DJs because we didn't have any budget for paying for advertising. So that using PR and market, that kind of grassroots stuff allowed us to extend the message to a much wider audience. And it was a very cool project to work on.
That's a very cool one.
Yeah.
So talk to us about bringing the first-time fan through the door.
Sure. Well, this going into this season with the Rockettes is my first real comprehensive experience with getting people into the stadium. All of my experience in baseball, I've been a sales guy. I sell the signs in the outfield and the community sponsorships. I can sell virtually anything to anybody, which is why I've done pretty well in my career. But I like what I sell, and that makes a big difference. I don't think I want to sell cars because I don't want to have to tell somebody my sister-in-law drives a car if they don't drive the car. So we have an ownership group who bought our team a couple of years back. The team had been very successful for about 10 years and had done a great job. The new ownership group came in and they instilled some people who did everything differently instead of taking a look and selecting the things that did really well and continue with those things. So this year, there's some new people in place, myself included, and we're really trying to get back to what they were doing because they were doing it right. One of the first things we did was we hired Jay, again, who had not worked with the team in a year, and he had worked there for years because he's the guy who's going to help us get creative so we can get people in the seats. About 30 years ago, if you wanted to let everybody in the state of Connecticut know that you had a baseball game that night, you'd put an ad in the paper, you'd have a commercial on TV, you'd have a commercial on the radio, and everybody would know. You all know how fragmented the market is now because you all do different things and you watch different things. You watch TV on different things. There are no three methods you can use to reach everybody. If we spend $1 million in the market, we still won't come close to reaching everybody. So you have to be real creative about what you do. And you have to do things, to Jay's story about the goat or the donkey?
The donkey,
The donkey.
the mule, whatever.
You have to wake people up so they hear your message. And if they hear it, then they can respond to it. But if they don't hear it and you're not getting creative to get it out there, they're not going to. One of the big things that everybody will talk to you about, you probably hear it about a lot in your classes, is digital advertising, digital marketing. That's a challenge for us right now because everybody that I meet with is saying, well, you got to put this money into digital marketing. It's how you're going to fill up your stadium. You've probably all been on a screen today, right? Has anybody not been on a computer, smartphone, TV at all today? Anybody remember an ad they saw on their computer at any point? Not really,
It's
right?
not why
Because
you're
your eyes are
there.
trained to look away. So that's the challenge for us. I mean, we have to figure out how to get our ads in the right place. We have to make sure people are receptive to them when they do hear them. And that's why we're working with Jay, because he has decades of history where he's done that. And once people hear the ads, they can respond to it. In addition to that, we do all sorts of community things where we partner with local groups, youth groups, rec camps, schools, et cetera, to get people into the stadium. Ideally, you're always going to want to build about 40% of your audience, make 40% of your own luck. So then you let your marketing do the rest after that.
Say that again, what's the 40%?
We generally shoot for filling the stadium at about 40% with our own groups. So on any given night, we're almost half full, and we've made our own luck at that point.
Do you know
We're
what
not-
he means by with our own groups?
Right, by selling to school groups, rec groups, church groups, sports teams. On any given night, we want about 3,000 seats in the stadium already filled. We know they're going to be filled that night. We only have to worry about the marketing doing the rest.
Can I add one thing to that? In terms of, once you get the person there, everything comes down to the product. And the Wolfpack and the Rockettes do a great job when the fans are there, so they want to come back a second time. If you get them there the first time and you don't do a good job entertaining them, they're not going to come back. So that's part of the marketing side. Do people know what the difference between advertising and good marketing is? The difference between the two? We always say this: good marketing is trading for LeBron James. Good advertising is telling people that you did. So it comes down to the product. On that. So I didn't mean to step into it.
No, that was
Okay.
it. I was done.
Talk to us about getting people through the door, whether,
Sure.
in any or all of your facilities.
Yeah, so these guys touched on the team side of things. I'll try to relay it on maybe more of the event side from what we do, and probably specifically concerts. It's probably the easiest one. How many of you guys have been to a concert in the past year? How many of you heard about that concert on the radio? Or found out about it or purchased your ticket because of how you found out on the radio because of it? Right, it's all, you saw a Twitter ad or a Twitter link, you saw a Facebook post, you got an email from a venue. So it's all about data collection for us. And our data collection, in the situation we were in, we came in July 1st, we took over a building from a previous management group. We started with scratch, we had nothing. We started the hockey team with nothing, we had 0 season ticket holders. We had season ticket holders, we didn't have their information. We didn't have previous purchase lists of groups, of single event purchasers. We didn't have any of that, so we had to start from scratch with data collection. And it's all about going and getting that data and then finding it, and how are you going to maximize revenue off of that, essentially. We ran a contest, and we did this in Philadelphia at our corporate headquarters, and then we tried it here in Hartford, and it worked pretty successfully. It was called the Big Ticket Program, and this was that was our biggest challenge, was how do we grow our database? How do we get our Facebook likes up? How do we get our Twitter followers up? How do we get our Cyber Club lists out so that we can bombard you guys with all kinds of emails that you don't read half of them, but, when you do read one, you click on a link, you buy a ticket, and, now we got you. So it's kind of how it works, right? But it's good. It's beneficial for a fan, for a customer, when you know you want to go see a show, like, that's how you're going to find out about it. So we ran this program called the Big Ticket. We got a sponsor behind it to pretty much covered all the costs. We actually made some revenue off it just from the sponsorship cost of it. But we offered 2 tickets to every single event at both Excel and Rentschler for a full year. And all you had to do was sign up. So you signed up, we got your data, we got about 3,500 entries in 3 weeks. So we grew our database at that time. It's not a big number, but we grew it almost 40–50% in a matter of 2 to 3 weeks. A lot of those events we own, we have ticket inventory from, so it doesn't cost us anything. And then if there was a cost to either purchase 2 tickets, and we did parking as well, so you got a free parking spot and you got 2 tickets to every single event that came through our buildings for a full year. And the sponsorship dollars were offset to cover the advertising of that, but also the actual cost that we had if we had to buy tickets. For the most part, we have those ticket inventory because the building gets a handful of comps. But that was one thing that we did in terms of trying to grow our database, because our data collection is critical to our success. The second side of that is, which Jay touched on, is once you do get them in the building, how are your fans being treated? And not only our fans, but our clients. So a lot of times we work directly with, a lot of my business and conversations is with promoters. So I don't know if you guys know the name, but Jimmy Koplik. Jimmy Koplik is the bigwig for Live Nation. Live Nation is the biggest promoter across the globe of concerts and shows primarily. And Jimmy's actually based right here in Wallingford. His offices are 10 minutes down the road, Live Nation. And he's kind of the senior VP, and he deals with all the venues in Connecticut, New York, and he's really kind of a mainstay in our industry. So I deal with him a lot. And he is the one who is talking to the agents directly, the CAAs, the William Morrises, for all these artists. They have booking agents, is what they call them. So the booking agent is responsible for routing a tour from Boston to Hartford to New York to Philly, DC, so on and so forth, down based on availability of building dates and where are they going to maximize revenue. So it's all about trying to not only get the people who are buying the tickets to have them have an experience come through, but it's the promoter as well. So the promoter ties in, they have a box office person. So what's their experience like when they're dealing with our box office representative in terms of building the show? What's their marketing department's relationship like with our marketing department? How are they treated when they come through the door? Are we just giving them a room with a table and saying, here you go, here's a bottle of water, and have a nice day? I mean, I go in there and we throw banners up, we welcome them, we'll give them the roll out the red carpet for them, sushi platters, all kinds of food, whatever they want. And we'll make them feel at home. And that stuff at the end of the day could be a deciding factor. Where is Jimmy going to put a show in Bridgeport, or is he going to put it in Hartford? And then all of a sudden now we're partnering and we have an event coming through our doors. And all of our companies are making money off of that event and our client, and we're driving revenue for our building. So it's not only our fans that are coming through the door, and from the team side, that's critical, is, hey, what's the customer experience like? That's what we've been pushing on the Wolfpack this year, is the fan experience. You come through. We kind of had a little bit of a torched market. Hockey in Hartford has been kind of run through the ringer a little bit from losing the NHL and different AHL teams there and different managers and groups. And Jay, I know your group has been involved with it too. And it's nobody's fault. It's just over time, kind of, we walked into a situation where we had to start from scratch. And our biggest push was, hey, people come through the door, give us a chance, and you'll have a fun time when you come through. Those groups, those Boy Scout groups, using all of our available assets. So it's all about the experience that you offer, not only your customers, but your clients when they come through the door for us.
Talk to us a little bit about the role in this kind of marketing of community involvement. And you touched on it, Jay, but it's huge in events/sports marketing.
Yeah, it's about networking. And if you could get one group to get your message out to multiple groups, that's a key way to doing. We use community outreach to reach certain,
That's really good at it.
certain groups out there, whether it's, I think the book, The Tipping Point, was talking about reaching a certain person who reaches multiple people. Sometimes we do media events that reaches the media people who get the message out for us. Sometimes it's reaching out directly to groups. I think both of you had Boy Scout nights, which is a very cool thing where you have, it's an encampment. The Boy Scouts actually sleep over on the field and at the Excel Center.
Yep.
And I think early in February, you had 10,000 fans at a Wolfpack game
Yep.
because of that. So reaching out, because you're calling one person, and that one person is delivering 3,000 or 4,000 fans for you. So that's critical. I use outreach to activate certain groups. I want to activate certain media groups to get to other groups. That's how I would use it.
You guys have always been good at pinpointing groups in the community and really getting the Rockettes involved with the community. Can you give us some examples and talk about how that's worked?
Yeah, I mean, I can't take a whole lot of credit for it. Again, I've only been there for about a year and a half,
Right.
but minor league baseball on a whole has done well with that. Most people don't realize that minor league baseball as an entity is really right up there with the NBA, with Major League Baseball, with the NFL. There's 165 minor league baseball teams. The collective attendance of those teams really does put minor league baseball up on a tier one. And the way that they've done it for decades is they've just been good to the people who are closest to the stadium and in their community. You'll give tickets to virtually any group who's having an event, needs tickets for a fundraiser, a raffle, a gift basket. Anybody who reaches out, you're going to show them some kind of kindness because it's going to come back to you in some way. The minor league baseball team really does have to be a pillar in the community because that's what we can offer that's different than the major league experience. Nobody is ever going to sit at home and decide whether to go to a Red Sox game or a Pawtucket Red Sox game. You go to one for one reason or one for the other. I have young kids who are 4 and 6. I would never take them to a Red Sox game because they don't know the difference. I would take them to a Pawtucket Red Sox game in a heartbeat because all they want is hot dog, popcorn, ice cream. They want to play in the kids' area. They want to go home.
And a big mascot.
And a big mascot, right? So, I mean, the most important part of being in the community is being a part of the community. The groups are going to reach out to you. The schools are going to reach out to you because everybody wants a little bit of something from you. And when you develop those relationships, you can build and grow. A great example of what Jay referenced in terms of starting with one group and having it bring in another group. When I was a kid, there was about a year where every single kid in my class had a roller skating birthday party. The reason for that was that one person had a roller skating birthday party, and in all of the gift bags, we all won a roller skating birthday party. And what all that meant was you got to go for free and everybody else who you invited paid. And everybody went home and said, I want a roller skating birthday party, and then we had a roller skating birthday party. So when I came over to New Britain about a year ago, that's something we started to do. Every kid who has a birthday in our stadium gets a gift bag with a big, wow, you just won a birthday party at the Rockettes. You get to go for free. Everybody else has to pay, but it's your day. So it's important to get together with the groups you're working with and find out how they can get you to other groups. Another example of that is last year we hosted the AA Eastern League All-Star Game, and we had an event before the event. We had a day before a home run derby, which people traditionally don't do in minor league baseball. They do it in Major League Baseball. But we wanted to do it. You have to fill the stadium because you're not going to sell tickets for that. So we decided we wanted to go find a community group who could get us a whole bunch of people. So they would sponsor it. It would be their day, and they would essentially give us access to about 10,000 kids that we could get out. We partnered with a terrific organization called the Community Foundation of Greater New Britain, and all they do is they offer grants to all of these groups in the towns surrounding our stadium. But what they did as part of the sponsorship was they gave a free ticket to every kid in all of these communities to go to the Home Run Derby. And as a result of that, we sold out the Home Run Derby, which was great. For the rest of the season, every time we had a game where the attendance didn't seem like it was going to be where we wanted it to be, I would go back to all of these groups and say, hey, as a thank you for your all-star game thing, I'd like to give you a ticket for every kid in your group. And then we would sell out all of those games because they'd all show up.
And plus you get money off the concessions, just getting them in.
Concessions,
Yeah.
souvenirs, and then overall we got money for the sponsorship, which did ultimately pay for all the tickets that they gave out.
Involvement in the community. You can
Yeah.
pick any of the arenas or any of the sports or any example you think
it's
about.
twofold for us. From an arena standpoint, we get paid a fee to manage these buildings. And our corporate headquarters are in Philadelphia, and we have accounts in British Columbia, Seattle, Colorado, Texas, New York,
Dubai.
Dubai, contract in Dubai. So even though we're headquartered in Philadelphia, we're coming in with a lot of transplants into a community, and a lot of these communities are very protective of their local businesses, and they want people in their community to see the benefits of having an organization stay locally. So we have a challenge coming in where we're an outside organization. We particularly have this in Canada with a lot of our buildings where, you know, a lot of the public or our clients will say, hey, this American company is now making all this money. What are we seeing from it? So community relations from our facility management standpoint is a huge component of what we do. We really have to get out, get involved, whether it be the local Chamber of Commerce, whether it be getting out in terms of the political landscape and just learning and really embracing a lot of the other community efforts that may not directly impact our building. But we're showing that we have a commitment, we have a care, and that we really want to embrace the community that we're coming into. You know, at least my motto, and I think a lot of our other general managers' motto is that, in particular, I have it in Hartford, this isn't our building. We'll go to meetings and we'll say, hey, this is your building. What do you want us to do? How can we help you? And I go in with that approach, and it seems to kind of get people to perk up a little bit more in terms of, hey, this isn't my building. I'm not here because, you know, we don't own the bottom line. We're here, it's your building, we're here to manage it and have events and have opportunities available for you and your business and your employees that can be beneficial for you. From the team standpoint, and you hit the nail on the head, I think, and this is gonna sound funny, but particularly in minor league hockey, it's very tough to create a recognition with a particular player. So our team, our players are up and back and forth between New York and here and even South Carolina where the East Coast Hockey League team is. So they're in and out every year. There's a lot of turnover with rosters. It's really tough to create kind of a connection with one or two particular players because they're always moving. So our hook is our mascot. We really have to get out and get in with him, and we have to do a better job of this. It's something that we rebranded him this year with a new kind of fresher look, more of a fan-friendly, family-friendly, kid-friendly approach.
This is for the
Wolfpack.
For the Wolfpack.
For the Wolfpack,
Okay,
right.
okay.
So, yeah, our building doesn't have its own mascot.
People are confusing.
Sometimes they think I am. But so the mascot is a critical piece to what we do from a community relations standpoint. We got to go out. We have to make Sonar, which is his name. Don't get me started on that. But we have to get out and get him to be present at opportunities. So whether it's ribbon cutting ceremonies, local businesses, our new company that's starting in Hartford. Whether it's going to youth hockey organizations and practices, you know, getting him out and making him the face, because kids see him, and kids, that's really what our target audience is, right? It's families, it's kids, it's groups. Because like Mike said, most people can't afford to go down to either New York or Boston, take 4 or 5 people, you know, and kids to a game. You're looking at, if not $1,000, close to it, just to go to a hockey game, and that can be tough. So we offer that at more of an affordable rate, and we want the kids to really connect with the mascot, come in, have a good time, scream and yell. Do I expect 25, 10-year-olds at a birthday party to have any idea what's going on the ice? No, but it's a night out. It's a safe environment for them, for the kids, the families, the parents can send them. They know they're going to have a good time. They're going to come back with a sugar high, but that's okay with us. But they're going to have a good time. They're going to see the mascot run around. They're going to get their face on the Jumbotron. It's all about that experience, and we really use the mascot as the hook to be the symbol, the face of the organization in the community. And we have to do a better job of that as we go through, and we've really, you know, as we get into our second year, it's going to be a focus, more of a focus, but that's really our hook, or one of our main hooks that we have to really push.
Okay. And Chris and Mike talked extensively about the fan experience, maybe not on the minor league level, but in major league level. One of the things that's going on now is there's more competition that people can stay home and watch on their flat screen TV with free parking, free beer in the refrigerator. You don't have to travel. So it's been going across Major League Baseball, football, even I think I heard some things colleges. It's the fan experience that's going to differentiate us from sitting on your couch. So that's a big thing that I know you kind of is trying to address that now, is how do you bring the fans back and give them that experience at the arena? That's key.
I drive them crazy about understanding your target audience. Both of the classes that I teach, I make them nuts with that. But talk a little bit about why you need to do that.
Well,
And unique target audiences that maybe nobody ever thought of, that you've had experience
well,
with.
it's a story that we talked about, both of us talked about earlier, about Rockettes minor league baseball. Last couple of years, before Mike, the team got away from who their target market was. They were targeting baseball fans. and not the, I guess I could say it, the soccer moms, because they're going to bring the families. And that dictates what you do for media. The media buy the last couple of years seemed to be targeted more towards the baseball fan. And now, with Mike here, they're going towards, believe it or not, targeting women to get the families to come to the game. So knowing who your market is really key. And knowing where they are, too.
Yeah, to Jay's point, what we've done this year is we took a harder look at our marketing, and I took over the marketing of the team. We have only so much money to spend, so we have to spend it wisely. And to Jay's point, for the past couple of years, all of our radio commercials, for instance, were on ESPN radio, on AM sports radio. That's really not all that helpful. The people that are hearing those commercials, if they want to come out, they're already coming out. So this year, all of our radio, all of our TV, all of our newspaper advertising, digital advertising is all targeted to women 30 to 50 years old. Because if they're reached, it's going to reach the family ultimately. I'm not a big gender role kind of guy. I'm not a chauvinist. In my household, everything is equal. My wife and I both contribute equally, and we make decisions together. But if she hears about a baseball game on a Saturday morning and we will desperately want to get out of the house because our kids are insane, we're definitely going to go to the game. If I hear about the game and I tell her about it, there's a chance we're going to go to the game. Ultimately, she is going to make the decision on what we do that day, and she's the one who holds the calendar. I'm at work, she's at home. So that's the change that we're making. I expect it to pay incredible dividends because it did for 10 years prior to the group that was there before me making the changes that they did.
And you also changed the timing of when you're running the spots.
Right.
Because the decision-making, when you make a decision for Wolfpack or for Rockettes, when people generally decide about
Right,
that.
so we took a look at when people were buying their individual tickets. Remember before I talked about you build your own 40 or 50% of audience. So we need another 50% to sell out a game. Well, we took a look at when they were buying their tickets. Turns out they were buying their tickets the 2, 3, and 4 days before a game. What we had been doing is we had either been advertising every day all week, or we had been advertising the day a homestand started and continued on for those 8 days. What we're going to do this year is we're going to change the demo that we're targeting, and all of our commercials or advertisements are going to run the 2, 3, 4 days before the homestand starts.
That's about knowing your audience.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, and I think this is probably the biggest thing on our concert standpoint. So at the end of the day, for me and for us, when we look at concerts, it's all about the bottom line. It doesn't do me any good to have a concert and have it run through if I'm going to lose money on it. So unfortunately or fortunately, that's the business that I'm in. I need to really generate a profit. And the building we have in Hartford, it's a tough building. It's a tough market to drive traffic through. It's a 35, 40-year-old place. We're going to try and spruce it up a little bit. But I get 3 to 4 emails a week, either from our CEO, our president, or our VP of booking, who's having conversations with agents, promoters about opportunities that might be out there for us to take a chance on a concert. And what I have to do is, the first thing I'll do is I'll pick up our director of marketing, I'll call her, and I'll say, hey, like Weezer, for example, I got the band Weezer. I got an email about last week. It was like, here's what it's going to cost to bring Weezer in. What do you think? Do you think your market can pull it off? So I pick up Erin, who's our director of marketing. I call her. I send her an email, said, hey, see below, let me know how many tickets we think we can do. So she's going to call the radio stations, and she's going to call the people that we're going to spend money with about what's the listening audience feel about Weezer? How many times are you playing it on the radio, right, from a music standpoint? If we were doing a concert, it's, hey, what market are we in? Hartford's a little unique in the sense that I think it's big enough to do a country, it's big enough to do pop, it's big enough to do R&B rap. It can stretch across all genres. The previous market I was in, upstate New York, I wasn't going to get a lot of rap, R&B, hip-hop shows up there because that just wasn't that demo, it wasn't that audience. It didn't last up there. It was big heavy metal, hard rock, and big country. So I really had to cater my break-evens, which is essentially what I would do. I would figure out what's it going to cost me to break even. So I'd lay out a pro forma. I'd lay out what are my expenses, what's my average ticket price going to be, what ancillary revenues am I going to get. We do per caps, so every time somebody comes through there from an F&B standpoint, food and beverage, what are you worth to us? Traditionally for a concert, it can range anywhere from like $8 to $12 that each one of you is going to spend when you come through the door. And then there's a net return to us that comes through, and we figure out what's a per cap for that type of audience, how much merchandise are you going to buy, because the building gets a cut of that. You go buy a ticket online, you get charged with all those fees, right? Half the time you don't even know what it is. You're like, why? Ticket's $50. Why am I spending $65 to buy a ticket? Well, those fees are, it's called a convenience fee. It's the convenience of having the ticket to be available to purchase online. That's why it's called a convenience fee, right? A portion of that goes to the company who provides it to be online, but a portion comes to the building. So we figure out what's our net return going to be on that. And at the end of the day, we figure out, okay, what's our bottom line to break even? How many tickets do I have to sell? Do I got to sell 6,000 Weezer tickets to break even? Is that worth it for me? Probably not. I think I'm going to have a tough time right now in a month and a half of selling 6,000 Weezer tickets for a concert in a building that holds 16,000 people. So we got to make those decisions, and we got to know what's our target audience. We got to have relationships with our radio partners, our TV partners, and we got to know our fan base. What's traditionally done well in the building? Was Weezer in the market in the past 2 years? How did it do? So all that stuff goes into consideration of making your decision of, are we even going to have the event? These guys talk about the team side of things, and I echo everything they say, but from an event and a concert standpoint, a lot of times it comes down to, and the promoters will do that too. The Live Nations will say, I don't think we can do 10,000 Tom Petty tickets in your building, so we're going to try and look at taking it somewhere else because there's too much risk there for us.
Are there certain events or acts that will sell more merchandise, more of a bigger?
Yeah, so Justin Bieber, right? We had Justin Bieber in July. You laugh, but he was probably our biggest profiting concert that we had all year. Some of that was the way we structured our deal, but some of it was his merchandise per caps of what each person spent on merchandise were through the roof, right? Because it's all teenagers, teenage girls who are coming through. They want the next cup. They want the T-shirt, whatever it may be. So that plays a factor into it. We'll adjust that for certain shows. Some are higher, some are less of what our merchandise per cap is, but we'll also adjust our food and beverage per cap for something like that because it's not a very big alcohol crowd. It's a big water crowd. So our per caps were way down for that. They were probably around $5, whereas we were at Pearl Jam, we were $11, $12 a head. People are spending, right? Because it's a Friday night. That goes into it. People are coming in and they want to have a good time. It's a rock concert. That's the type of audience it is. It's usually males 25 to 45 for the most part for that show, and it's a big beer drinking crowd. At the end of the day, that's going to fall to our bottom line. So we have to make adjustments on that as we go through it.
You talked about the golden role of data and working that data.
Sure.
And it's clear that you literally were paying to get that database.
Yeah, we do
Talk
that.
a little bit about that.
We do that for, I mean, there's tons of companies out there that have databases. They have lists. There's been instances where we've gone out and we'll spend $500 to grab 2,000 email addresses because if we think that is in a demographic, a local market of ours, we feel like we can get, through one email blast, we'll get our return on that pretty quickly. Plus, we'll have that data forever. You can opt out, yeah, but for the most part, how many times do you opt out of emails of stuff that you do? You don't really do it. You'll sign up for one thing, and all of a sudden it'll be 4 months later that you're finally like, all right, I'm sick of getting this, I'm going to unsubscribe. But you're not going to do that for things that you do consistently in terms of entertainment. A lot of times that's clothes or some kind of other purchase that you have and emails that you get. But growing our database, it's always growing. Venues and stuff, a lot of times you don't unfollow because you do want to know. You don't want to miss the next time your favorite act comes through. So having that data, the more we can get, the merrier, because at the end of the day, the more people you can reach, the more your return's going to be, the more your yield's going to be.
And knowing about the data, there's new technology out there, close proximity technology, which will actually know, this is my third time at a Wolfpack game this week, and I'll send you a push notification. Says since this is your third time at the game this week, you win a free taco from Moe's. So they'll send you. So help support.
It's scary the amount of stuff you can do analytically with data. I'll give you an example. This year we came in and we were gung ho and we were excited to make all this money off the Wolfpack, yada yada. And we go through like the first month and our online and phone orders were like non-existent. So we're sitting there scratching our heads saying, what's going on here? So not only did we scrub down our convenience fees, right, our fees, because we thought that was a contributing factor, we scrubbed those down to basically make it a break even for us. We were able to capture, if you went into your shopping cart and you went through the process but you didn't purchase it and you left, it was an empty shopping cart, we are able to see who specifically was doing that and how many people, and you do a retargeting campaign. So these retargeting emails are now sent to you, and we had one of our players, we cropped the video together of him sitting in a shopping cart on the ice saying, hey, saw you guys didn't buy a ticket, come see me play next week. And we just sent
pretty
those
cool.
2 or 3 times, right? From a retargeting standpoint. You'll see that's how that's set up on, you go buy something on Macy's or wherever you guys are buying clothes. Now all of a sudden you're going ESPN.com and you got a sidebar that's Macy's, and you're like, once you understand how that concept works, it's essentially the retargeting stuff. The more time it's in your face, the likelihood of you purchasing it is going to be there, and it works. Otherwise, it wouldn't be offered. So from an analytical and a data analysis perspective, it's scary the amount of stuff you can do with data, which is why it's so critical.
Have you had experience either here or at your other venues using that data, mobilizing it like that retargeting campaign?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Jay knows this, but it really don't fit my demographic, and that I'm not a big fan of the data. I'm really sort of the opposite of Chris. I'm definitely more of a traditionalist. I understand people are vacating traditional media, vacating newspapers, radio, TV. What the different outlets want for their digital advertising, I don't find to be in line with what it delivers. And you get a whole bunch of numbers, and they show you how many impressions you made. I said to Jay a couple of weeks back, it's the end of the day, I said, I've probably been counted as 3,000 or 4,000 impressions today, and I couldn't tell you a single ad that I saw online. Data and the usage of it is a whole different thing. Recently, I had asked somebody in our ticket office, we send out email newsletters the same way everybody does. We don't have a tremendous amount of people in there. The open rate is about 15%, which isn't great. Said the numbers seem low. I mean, is it everybody who's buying a ticket, they're getting an email, right? And the way they had set it up, and it had been set up for years, was you had to manually opt in to get the email newsletter. So if I buy something, I fully expect I'm going to be targeted after that. I'm not opting into it. It's not a problem. I'll delete it if I don't want to see it. So we added in all of those email addresses, which brought us up over 100,000 people. We sent out an email blast. We redesigned it, so it was nice. This was actually yesterday. And we reached over 100,000 people, and we actually had 30,000 people that clicked through on that newsletter because so many of them had bought tickets. They'd been out to the park before. They'd never received the newsletter. So the data is definitely important to what if it's free, like your newsletter, free social media. I'm not a big on spending on those things because I don't really see the value in it personally, at least not now. I understand, again, that's not really a fit for my age, but
I think you have a different products. When you're
Sure.
selling concerts,
Absolutely.
that's an emotional
Absolutely,
sell.
yeah, sure.
And the fans, they have followers already who want to know when the concert's there. No offense, I don't think there's moms waiting, oh, when am I going to get an email about the next Rockettes game?
Right.
I think it's a totally different thing. With you had to create emotion, and using the jingle of These Cats Rock is part of that emotional cue. And so it's the broadcast side that gets that message out, whether it's radio or TV.
Yeah, that's a great point between the difference between the venue and the team. Like we're talking about redoing our team website right now, and we're kind of through a brainstorming and had a kind of an open discussion. And at the end of the day, the biggest thing that I took out of it was really understanding the difference between a team and a venue website. You go to a team website, you're going there to learn information about the team. You're going there to see interactive stuff. You want to see videos. You want to see player stuff. You want to see cool behind-the-scenes access that you might not have. You go to a venue website, you just want to know what's going on. Hey, what show do they have? You don't need to know about the XL Center, what seat we just fixed in row 7, seat
Right.
6, row, whatever. You want to know what's going on at the venue, whereas when you go to the team, you want to be more involved. You're not necessarily going there to buy a ticket. How many times do you buy a ticket from a sports team and your first thought is go directly to, I'm going to go to the website to buy a ticket. You're going to the website because you want to learn about the team. Whereas you go to a venue website, you're going to buy a ticket most of the time. So I think there definitely is a distinction between a team and an arena or a venue side of things from a marketing
Right,
standpoint.
so you're both right in terms of what media you're using to reach your particular product.
Let's
And
talk
one
about
of-
the role of the, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and I learned this in my sales job that I had, which was very critical for me in learning how to communicate to people. I didn't learn anything. I learned more than I wanted to about computer software engineers and this, but I realized I didn't know anything about that. But the one thing I did understand, I spent a year talking on the phone, and I learned how to communicate, and I taught myself that I can learn a skill that I know nothing about by just kind of listening, and that was the biggest piece that I took out of that. But another one in terms of messaging is, and if you guys get into some kind of digital advertising or marketing down the road where you end up sending a lot of emails or mass emails, you have to pay attention to your subject line. The subject line in an email can make or break whether or not that open rate is 10 or 60%. Think about how many emails you get at your personal email address that you just delete right away because you know what it is, and all you do is you literally read the subject line. So if you're continually changing that message, all it takes is one message for somebody to open, and you
You're right.
did what you're.
I spend more time on the
Right.
subject line because you have
Yes.
like 5 words.
Sure,
to get the
it's like a
message right.
resume.
Yeah.
Your subject line is a resume, right? You guys are going to hear this. How many of you guys are seniors in here? Just curious, right? So you guys are going to hear this. If you're not hearing it right now, your resume. This is what I did. My first job out of college, I looked at resumes online, and the average time I spent looking at a resume, and I didn't believe this because I heard it. You guys are probably hearing it too. Is probably 7 to 10 seconds. I'm looking at a resume. So you don't like your resume right now with where you guys are at and looking to grow and get in and get an entry-level gig or your first job. Your resume is your story, and scrub it down. Like you don't want to. Yeah, I usually go on. I don't know if you guys. I do 1 page for every 5 to 6 years of professional experience you have. I used to have students who were graduating in 2010, and it was the winter of. It was January 2010. They're graduating in May. The resume was 2.5 pages long. And at the end of the day, like, how can you fill, like, I understand, like, hey, you did roofing work in the summer, or you had 75 internships. Like, that's great, but put a snapshot of what are you about, and cater it to what job you want to do, right? That's your hook. You get in there and you get in an interview. I don't spend any time looking at a resume when I'm in an interview. When I'm interviewing someone, I don't even look at a resume. I'll look at it before, but I want to talk to that person. I want to know what they've done. Like the resume is literally just it's a snapshot of you. It's your sales pitch. It's how do you get the interview. After that, that's your hook. Your main focus should be just get an interview. And if I can just give one piece of advice for this, right now, interview as much as you can. Interview for stuff you have no interest in. Interview for stuff that you're overqualified for. It's like applying to a college. I was told when I was applying to a college, apply to 2 or 3 that you have no chance of getting into. Apply for 70% of your colleges that you can get into and 10% of ones that you know you're going to get into. Same thing with a job. Just go interview. It's such a learning experience, and you'll go through 10 or 15 interviews. Half of them will be, it's going to be 10 minutes, and they'll say, what is this kid in here for? He has no experience, can't fit what we're doing. But you're going to gain invaluable experience and confidence from talking to people in suits who are sitting there in front of you, and you're intimidated, you're scared, you don't even know what the job's about. It doesn't matter. Just go in and interview, then all of a sudden you're going to go through 5 or 6 of them, and you're going to be driving up to that next one, and you're not going to have those butterflies in your stomach. You're not going to be thinking, what's he going to ask me? What's he or she going to ask me? You're just going to react, and you're going to be natural. And that comes across as, that's going to get you a second interview, just by being, this is going to sound really bad, being normal. You'd be surprised about how many people come in and they're sitting, they're jitter, and I get it. I've been there. I understand it. But the point is, go interview. Just go talk to companies. Learn about what questions to ask. A lot of times it's the same questions, but just go experience the interview process. And sorry, I'm going on a little rant here, but
No, that's a good rant. You want to pick up on that in terms of how you get a job in this business?
Yeah, I completely agree with everything Chris said. It's important to be comfortable when you're interviewing. I was always very comfortable when I was interviewing, so it wasn't an issue for me. And over the past 6 or 7 years when I've been interviewing people, same sort of thing. I'll spend about 10 seconds max on a resume. If somebody comes in, I want to talk to them, I want to get to know them. I hate the 5-year plan question. I hate, what was a challenge you overcame? What was a challenge you didn't? I don't like any of that stuff. I'll generally ask if you have any brothers or sisters, what do your parents do for work? Where'd you grow up? What sports did you play, et cetera. I just want to know, to Chris's point, that somebody is normal, that they converse, that they're not nervous. Everybody's a little bit nervous. A lot of nervous is going to really kind of turn anybody off because the fear is that you're going to be nervous when you come in to do the job. But be prepared just to chat. I mean, I would approach now, with the experience that I have, an interview the same way that I approach a sales call. Anytime I go out and I meet with the company, I almost always bring nothing with me. I just want to go and talk about it. And from that, I can find out what they need, what they want, and then do something afterward. But practice, try not to be distracted, try not to be nervous, but do have the stock answers for the dumb 5-year plan questions and things like that.
And I want to be in sports. What does that mean? I have no idea what that means. People, why do you want this job? Well, I've always wanted to be in sports. What does that mean? I have no idea. Does it mean you want to play? Like, what does that mean?
I once asked a candidate why she wanted to come work for me, and she said, well, I just bought a house down the street and it'd be an easy commute. But to be of service.
Yeah. So be prepared, right? You're going in to interview with a company, know what they do, know what other locations they have, know who their clients are. Do your homework, spend an hour and do research on, and if you know who you're going to interview with, try and do some homework on them to ask pertinent questions. If the questions you ask, if they're pertinent to what that company does or what that person does, that shows me that, hey, this person has a vested interest. They're interested in knowing whether or not they get the job or not, but they care, and they might not be a good fit for my role, but I know Mike might be looking for an exact position, and maybe you're not interviewing for that, and I can call Mike or I can connect you with Mike. I literally had this conversation on Monday. I had a friend of a friend who came in and talked to me, and he's scared because he's been run through the ringer with jobs, and I gave him the same speech. Go interview and figure out what you want to do. He wanted to be in the NBA front office, and I said, there's 30 of those people in the world. There's 30 NBA general managers in the world, less than NFL football players, right? So the reality, be realistic. Keep a goal, keep a dream. I'm all for that. But be realistic and understand that it's going to take time to get you where you want to go. So do what I told him. I said, do research on NBA general managers and what was their career path. How did they start? And then go look at positions there. Go start and fill in positions there. Because maybe it's in marketing, maybe it was in arena management. You don't know where people start when they get to where they were.
HR.
Or HR, right? HR manager. I didn't even know what HR was when I was in college, to be honest with you, but I learned about it. And so learn about who you want to go work for and who you're interviewing with. Meet with those people. Just do your homework and go in and be prepared. And set aspirations, but be realistic, and you don't have to have a 5-year plan. I don't know what my 2-year plan is. I mean, things change, right? So I completely agree with those questions, have answers for them, but what I look for in people when they're coming in for a position, are you hardworking? Can you exude to me that you're going to work hard? Are you committed to what you're going to do? Do you have common sense? And are you entrepreneurial? Are you creative? What are you going to bring to my table? You could have, if you're coming in to interview for a group sales coordinator position, you could have nothing to do with group sales, right? But I want you on my team. I'll take 20 people who know nothing about what we're doing. If they're hardworking, if they're creative, and if they're committed to what they're doing, I'll put them in a room and I'll give them the tools. I'll teach them the tools about how to be successful and how to do that in a particular role. And we'll grow from there, as opposed to one person who's marketing, one person. Like, I want people who are broad, who are going to just open up the book and they're going to get after it. And that's what I look for. And there are some I always say, unless you're a doctor or a lawyer, your degree doesn't matter to me. It's important what you're doing in school. I get that, and hopefully that's not the wrong message, but unless you're a doctor or a lawyer, you can do whatever you want. You can go in any path. You have to have some skills, right? No offense, I don't want a sports management major doing brain surgery on me, but your paths are open for whatever you want to go anywhere. But just do your homework, be ready for interviews, and go interview. That's my biggest advice with
How
jobs.
about we continue the career advice theme from your standpoint?
Well, I mean, this could be a segue you're heading toward, but the most important thing for you guys to know as you head out into the workspace is that sales is going to get you everywhere you want to go. It's not something that most people want to hear. How many of y'all familiar with the Major League Baseball winter meetings? They hold them once a year in different places. Okay. So a big part of that, everybody thinks that it's just teams doing deals and trades. Actually, a really big part of that is the HR side. There's a lot of hiring done at the winter meetings. So the winter meetings a couple of months ago, I interviewed 115 people over 4 days. Of the 115 people that I hired, 3 people were there because they wanted to get a sales job. Now, the baseball winter meetings, the hiring process is incredibly competitive. All of the job prospective job, people are all in this one hotel. It's real competitive. It's like reality TV show. So it's very important to them that they leave with the job. Now, I personally never hire at an event like that because it's being on the bat. Same reason why people on The Bachelor never get married, because it's a whole different thing. I want to see what somebody's like again outside of that space. But the 3 people who were there for jobs and sales, they were on my automatic second interview list. And by the time I called them for the second interview, they'd already accepted jobs. The other 112 people that I interviewed, public relations, advertising, marketing, consulting, operations, nothing to do with sales. There are 3 people in my office of 22 people who have jobs that don't have anything to do with sales, and their ceiling is where they're at. They have nowhere to go but where they are. The only way to get all the way to the top is through sales. And sales is kind of a dirty word. It was to me. When I started working in sales again, it was because I was paying people who were selling more than I was making, and I knew I could do what they did. I wanted to buy a house at the time. I said, I'm just going to start selling stuff too. And I really liked it. It's not dirty. It's fun and it's creative, and I get to go and talk to people. The greatest thing about it is if I go to a party or I go to an event, I'm comfortable talking to anybody, because that's what I do for a living. I meet 4 people I don't know every single day, and I get comfortable with them. And for me, the process is all psychological warfare. I absolutely love it. I love when I win at it. But that's very important for you to know. I saw something a couple of days ago on LinkedIn that I absolutely loved, and it was a blog post by Mark Cuban. I've never read anything he wrote before, but he was talking about some experience he had at a basketball game and the marketing of it. And he said that in college, sales classes should be mandatory, not just for sports. I mean, for sports marketing majors, which is now like the biggest major in the country, sales should be half of the entire process. But in college, everybody should be required to take a sales class, not unlike an English class or a math class. It is that important. 90% of the jobs that are going to be available to you all when you graduate are going to have a sales component to them.
When somebody comes in to interview with us, I never read the resume. I want to understand how you think and how you approach problems. So I purposely don't look at the resume because it's going to color my perception of who you are. And that's one of the reasons why I gave you, most of you those questions. They're just fun questions to see how you approach things. There are right answers to them. We don't have to go off. You want to know what they are afterwards, I'll tell you. But I want to see how you approach a problem. And whether it's a sales problem or whether it's a creative problem, to me, I think everybody should take creative courses in terms of how to think. And that's how I approach it.
The other thing that I would say as an employer is the quickest way to get a person to turn off is to talk about negatively about anybody you work for. And I'm shocked at the number of people. Well, why did, tell me about your last job. Well, I left because I really didn't like my boss and she really wasn't, I'm like, really? You talk about that person in front of me, and a year and a half from now, you're going to be saying that about me. So it's really important that even if you hated your last job and you work for the most horrible person in the world, that you talk about what you took from the experience. Later on, you can let the person know how horrible it is. But I would say that is the kiss of death with me. And I want to go back as an employer to what you said. If you don't care enough before you come in to an interview with me to learn about my company and to learn about me, and how hard is that? I mean, how would you, if you'd never met me, where would you go? You're going in for a job interview with me. Where would you go? LinkedIn. Exactly. Remember I bug you guys about getting on LinkedIn? It's a start. And also, I'm looking for someone that's done that work and is looking for some kind of a personal connection. Well, I see that you're interested in. If you walk in and you're a heat-seeking missile and all you're like, I want to get in, I want to get out, I want to get the job, and you're not interested in cultivating any kind of a conversational relationship, which goes back to the sales thing, then you're going to personally bother the person you're interviewing with. There's got to be a personal connection. And it's also important that when you go into an interview, that you take a really hard look at the kind of person you're talking to. And you can get a lot of clues about what they're like by what's in their office. If you've got somebody that's got a lot of pictures in their office of their family, and I'm not saying be a Machiavellian, but honor that. Oh, I see you have a dog. I see you have a kid. If you've got a guy with a really clean desk and everything is lined up, get in, get out, get her in, get her out, Laura Hyde, you know. So be aware of their style and how they think. And it's not that hard. Office furnishings are, I think, a great tool for that.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I don't know what Machiavellian means, but I took something away from it.
A manipulator.
I said before that I like the psychological warfare of sales, and I do. I put more into the sales and the prospecting process than anybody else I know. I spoke at the winter meetings a couple of years back, and I made a presentation that made everybody uncomfortable. And to this day, whenever I go to these events, people will still be like, hey, you're the stalker guy. And it was prospecting in the digital age, and all it was like stalking a boyfriend or girlfriend online, stalking the people that you're going to meet with. What I told people was if I'm going to meet a guy who's a marketing director at a company, and this is somebody who's going to invest a certain amount of money or may invest a certain amount of money in the team, I can find out everything I need to know about him and his family online before I go to meet with him, and I can work it into our conversation. People like people. People that are like you are people that you're going to like because you have an innate comfort level with those people. So if I'm going to meet with somebody, I'm going to find out where they live. I'm going to find out when they bought their house. I'm going to go online, find out what the house looks like. I'm going to know if that guy has the power to say yes or no to what I'm selling by the kind of house he lives in, by the kind of house he owns. I'm going to find out if his kids are in youth sports because it's going to be on Facebook and it's going to be on all of these websites. And the guy has a 6-year-old and his kid plays soccer. I'm going to go and I'll say, I'm really looking forward to Saturday. My daughter's got a soccer game. Guy, my kids play soccer. She goes, really? I know that that's creepy and I know that that's uncomfortable, but there's nothing wrong with it. My daughter does play soccer, so I'm not going to go. I'm going to make a whole bunch of lies. But I'm going to find out every single thing. And anybody who's under 40 years old has a footprint on the internet. And I'm going to use all of it. I'm going to talk about their neighborhood. I'm going to talk about the things that they do, previous jobs they worked at. And I'll work it in a disclosing way or not. I may keep it to myself and just sort of ease it into the conversation. But I can tell you in every place that I've worked, I've sold more than anybody who worked there. Because these are the things that I think about. I get to know the people I'm going to meet with extremely intimately before I go to meet with them. And that gives you a huge advantage. Also, I just wanted to mention, if any of you think that it's too soon for you to be on LinkedIn, you should be already. I went and spent today at Southington High School talking to their sports classes a month ago, and I got 25 LinkedIn requests from students who were in that class who are going to be going on to college.
And by the way, they're looking to hire people. I know
Yep.
this because I get their newsletter.
But there's a job fair tomorrow.
But they're
Yeah,
going to
there's
be
a
your
job fair tomorrow.
competition in 4 years. So if you're not on LinkedIn, you should be. I don't know how well it works. Everybody else is on it, so you should be on it.
I want to parlay off something he said. I was in your guys' shoes not too long ago, trust me. So, and I'm really big on saying you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And it's 2014, and your first impression is your social media. You go into interview, that's not your first impression with a boss or somebody you're hiring. So as difficult as it may be for some people in this room and maybe your friends, clean up your social media.
Oh, yeah. And you've all had Joe Catrino's class, right? And he's all told you, time to get the beer and orgy pictures off. I speak as a mother of a child who used that as his Facebook page for picture.
Well, I'm glad you said that phrase and not me. But it's true. Trust me, I was in your guys' shoes. We used to get lecture upon lecture when I was at State about from an athletic standpoint about people trying to follow us, and not necessarily me, trust me, but you're going in for a job interview and there's going to be people, whether it's the hiring manager or the person in that department, who are they're going to go see, hey, what's this person look like, just so I know if I pass them. And then it's going to lead to, oh, I can get on their pictures, and that it just happens. It's not a stalking mechanism. It's 2014. It's what you guys do. It's, I do it. I don't have Facebook anymore. I got off it completely. It was a distraction for me, and I don't even use it anymore, to be honest with you. I use Twitter for my news feeds because I'm not at home. I'm always at work. So to find out what's going on, Twitter is a reliable resource, and then LinkedIn is a professional spot. You definitely need to be on it. And learn how to utilize it. I used it all the time as a recruiter. I would send people emails. I would go and find out, talk about stalking. I would go and I would find out if I'm looking for a computer software engineer and I knew they used a certain program, I would go into LinkedIn and I would just type in called Enernoc was a company. I would type in Enernoc. I knew what their computer software engineers, I knew what skills they had, and I knew that company Y that I was working for needed those skills. So I would just go find anybody who was a computer software engineer at Enernoc. I would open up another tab and I would go into Enernocs website, contact us, and I would just start dialing numbers. And I would just start typing in names, and all of a sudden I would be contacted you at your desk, and you're sitting at a desk doing your work, and you're getting a call from, some jackass who's saying, "Hey, do you want another job?" And they're like, "What? How'd you get my number?" But that's how it works. Like, that's how you're not stalking. That's how connected you are. That's how far away you are from people. So, long story short, clean up your
Remember
social
what we
medias.
talked about last week, the player that lost potential for scholarships?
Yeah.
After, in this case, it was they looked at his Twitter feed and said, we don't want this guy on our team.
Yeah.
Okay, questions. We have 3 official questioners of the day. You may notice those adorable bulls. Those are the no bull questioners. So you guys could start us off, and then these people schlep down here. Talk to them.
I have a bowl too. It's in my bag.
Okay, you get credit for it.
How does the bull work?
Every week, there are 3 official questioners. They are required to ask at least one question, and then they pass it on.
I'll ask everybody too. I have a cold and my ears are blocked up, so I can barely hear. So if you could speak up, that'd be great.
Sure. I would have probably asked this anyways, but so I'm from Massachusetts, and this past summer I went to a concert at Gillette Stadium. That's where the Patriots play. And obviously you know that. I don't know why I had to say that, but so there was a Taylor Swift concert, and a few months before, my mother was like, "Oh, they're going through something right now where the surrounding towns are really upset about the concert, and they're not sure what's going to happen." So I kind of want to know, like, since you guys all sort of work with venues, what happens when the community attacks? Because you talked about the good things about community relations, but what happens when the community attacks, like the venue for a concert or something like that? How do you go about dealing with it?
It's all through public relations training. You have to be prepared to answer difficult questions publicly. You have to get ahead of that stuff, be prepared for it. I mean, there's emergencies that happen in our stuff, in our line of work, especially mine on the venue side, where there's PR nightmares. A story that I always hear from our VP of Public Relations was a Guns N' Roses concert. Axl Rose didn't show up, and it got ugly, and it got real ugly. And there was people, and police were coming down, and all of a sudden it's 3 a.m. and people are leaving the building, and there's news cameras in the general manager's face saying, "Hey, what's going on?" And so you got to be ready to be prepared is the biggest thing with that. Know what's going on, but be prepared. And it's all about the wording and how you're doing it, and honesty sometimes. I mean, you're not, less is more when you're talking in that sense. I mean, just get out what you have to and, kind of go from there. But a lot of this preparing, getting ahead of it, outdoor stuff, like we have that challenge at Rentschler where there's noise ordinances. And we had a situation this summer where we didn't know about it because we were new, but we had one of these outdoor runs, right? Color Me Rads and all these electronic runs that are kind of playing off the EDM stuff that's going on. They're doing outdoor stuff. And we had a run, an electronic run, and it went to like 11:15. There was, hundreds of calls into the mayor's office in East Hartford, and I'm getting a cell phone call saying, "Hey, what's going on over at the building?" I'm like, "Oh, there's a run with a concert." "You can't do it yet." I had no idea, and so I just said, "Hey, I'll find out what's going on. Let's come in. We'll talk about it Monday morning." So it's really just staying calm in that sense, but also being prepared and knowing, how to react. And a lot of it's through experience, but less is more a lot of times.
Yeah,
If
don't
you know-
spin it.
Yeah.
They'll see right through it. You have a similar situation with the Rockettes with fireworks.
Yeah,
Friday
that's
night.
what I was
Bring
going to
that one
mention.
up,
So
yeah.
a big,
Yeah, that was like the main issue, I think, was that she was exploding things on the stage, and it was 3 different concerts, so I think the community was just like upset about that.
Yeah, so in minor league baseball, fireworks are really big because people will come out to see fireworks and then just go to the baseball game because they're there for the fireworks. So several years
baseball
back,
game broke out.
the New Britain Rockettes said, "Well, fireworks are great, so let's start doing them every single Friday. More fireworks, the better, right?" Well, all of the surrounding neighbors didn't like that at all. If I were a surrounding neighbor, I probably would have dug it. Like, I would have had my friends over on the weekends and set up chairs and watched them, but enough people didn't that they got together and they sued the team. And long story short, there was a lot of back and forth, and now we're only allowed to have fireworks once a month. That was sort of the result of that. We still do sort of fireworks every Friday. We do something called pyrotechnics, which is like, you wouldn't even know the difference. It's just they don't go as high and they're inside the stadium instead of outside. But that I can't imagine that was even on the team's radar when they said, well, let's start doing more fireworks because more is better. I don't think they expected the neighbors to attack and do that. Sort of on the control side, we had an issue last year. We decided that it would be really funny to do this on-field thing. We have this trivia, couples come down and do trivia, and we said, it'll be really funny if we have these couple of interns dress up as regular people. One proposes, the girl says no, she runs off the field. Everybody gasps. So it went off as planned. Everybody gasped, and they talked about it in the stadium. We had a video of it, so we put it up online. And there wasn't a lot of thought that went into an advance, so let's try and make a viral video because everybody wants a viral video. I created an account on YouTube. I put the video up. I said, well, I was at this baseball game last night. This happened. I sent it to a couple of people anonymously. And within 3 days, we had over 1 million hits on YouTube. It was the top story on Yahoo, top story on AOL, top story on ESPN, top story on the Today Show. I had producers from every single morning, afternoon newspaper show.
Only you knew it was a setup?
Well, I knew it was a setup.
But only you?
No, there were 20 of us who knew,
Okay.
maybe, in the
So did you take-
organization.
But only based on,
So
Yeah.
did you take the calls from today?
Well, no. So what we did, while it was blowing up and it was headed to 1 million, it was a top story, I was very adamant because as a journalism major, the integrity of journalism is still very important to me, and accuracy. I said, we're not going to answer a single call. Every single person who calls, don't even say Mike's not here, whatever. Put him instantly into my voicemail. So my voicemail was clogged up immediately. Nobody could get through. And what we did the next day, we said, well, at this point, it's just out of control. We have to control it. We have to do something. So there were only two options at that point. One was to say that we made it up and it wasn't real because somebody was going to figure out these two were interns at some point. And then people say, well, you guys were just going to put that over us and never let us know. We said, well, the other side is we can sort of take credit for it and say, hey, this is this fun thing we did. Wanted to show you how creative we were, and we were going to let you know on Wednesday, which is what we're doing now. And that's what we decided to do
That's
because it was the
smart.
best option available.
so how did you do that?
Well, all of the people who had called and emailed over the couple of days, I sent them all a mass email from my own account. I said, I am Jack Williams or whoever posted the video on YouTube. We did this as a stunt. We wanted to show more advertisers how creative we can be. We wanted to show fans how important it is for us to do interesting things. The story became twice as big as it had been when it was just about a guy who was rejected. Now it became about a hoax. And I hate the word hoax. I take my job very seriously and the integrity of what has been built before I was there very seriously. And now hoax was on everybody's lips. Even the couple of people in the media who did know, they were reporting that it was a hoax and the wool was pulled over everybody's eyes because that was the story that everybody else was reporting. So that all happened. We released that at about 9 o'clock at night on a Tuesday. That Wednesday, we had a company outing scheduled for Lake Compounds. Now, in baseball, I don't see my kids or my wife the entire summer. I leave in April and I come home in September. So we've been all looking forward to this one day the whole year. We're going to go on rides. We're going to go to the splash park. I spent the entire day huddled over in the woods doing phone interview after phone interview. Publications overseas, Argentina, an interview in Argentina, Iowa, everybody in Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island. And to Chris's point, there were 5 things that we hammered out. This is what I was going to say, and it was all I was going to say. I was not going to expound. I wasn't going to give any details. All I said were the same 5 things over and over.
We talked about 3, you pick your 3 to 5 talking points, and that's what you stick with.
Right. And that night and the next day, it was a huge story. It was even in the New York Daily News, the New York Times. I was absolutely amazed the reach of the thing. But after that one day is over, because I had my 5 points I said, nobody could pull it any way they wanted to pull it. It was done. And that was it. But what I will do, and I'll say it's very important, and this sort of circles back to your original question, I took it upon myself to personally talk to every single person who called and emailed and complained, the vast majority of which, 200 or more people, wanted me to be fired. They thought it was very important that I be fired because we did this thing that would never even been on my radar. I could have cared less if I had been there and it happened. They called, there was a sponsor involved, they called the sponsor, pulling everybody they could think of to try and get me fired. But I was not fired, I'm still here. But so the control is very important, having your message is very important, and then taking ownership. I will say that 7 people of the 200 who wanted me fired or to burn in hell for pretending a couple got engaged on field when they really didn't. I just thought, yeah, I believe in Jesus, you go to heaven, but apparently there's this whole on-field promotional thing. You take responsibility for it. 7 of those people are now full season ticket holders. And it was because I called them, I talked to them. I said, I'm a son, I'm a dad, I'm a pillar in my community, I contribute, I have a lot of things that are important to me. I'm just a normal guy, I'm not a bad guy. And that affected those 7 people enough that they bought season tickets. They never would have before.
And I went to a negotiation seminar called Dealing with an Angry Public, and it was specifically as a crisis manager. And one of the things that was the cornerstone, this is all built on the Harvard negotiation model, is to find out what somebody wants.
Right.
Don't assume you know what they want. And then see what you can do. And it goes back to the fireworks thing. You wanted to have the fire. What bothered you? It was high, it was loud, so we can still have our fireworks. So don't assume you know what that angry public wants until you actually ask them.
It's unbelievable what people will do and say, what's your problem? Or what's your issue? So I get people who have issues with tickets, whether they're in the wrong location and something happens and they want to call and they just want to complain. 99% of people just want to be heard. I'll sit there on the phone and I'll say, ma'am, what happened? Can you walk me through what happened? And they'll go on a 10 to 15 minute rant about how upset they were, how poorly they were treated, this and that, and then they'll finish and I'll stay silent. And then they'll say, and another thing, and they'll just keep going. Right? And they just want to be heard. And at the end of the day, it's, well, I'm sorry you had a disappointing experience. We're really trying hard. It's really what we work around. Give us another chance. Yeah, okay, but I don't think I'm ever coming back there. And they'll hang up. And okay, I contacted them. They just wanted to be heard. And at the end of the day, most of the times you can squash it with that. Or most people just want to complain. You'll get the occasional person who's persistent, and then you deal with it. But
And the answer also is, what can I do to make
Sure.
that up to
Yeah.
you?
Yep.
I usually try to find something that we can agree on right up the start. Because if you agree on something, it's kind of saying, well, they can't come back to you.
I don't do that until they ask.
Oh. I've been married a long time. I got that training at home.
Another
You
point
agree
with delivering
first.
bad news is the time you do it. Like a lot of pro sports team, this isn't crisis stuff, but if they're delivering bad PR where they're going to raise ticket prices or they're firing somebody who's really important, you pay attention to it. They're doing it Friday at 5:15 because people are driving home. It's Friday, especially in the summer. They're going to vacation homes, and you're going to get a lot less of a negative hit from it by doing it late Friday afternoons.
And the newsrooms are usually
Yeah, there's
smaller
no
on the
news to
weekend.
deliver. How many people watch Friday night news at 11 o'clock? It's just, when you're delivering that news can really kind of
Yeah, the
raise your
timing
glow.
is critical.
It
I mean,
is.
if you want it, say you said it, and make it go away.
Yeah.
The timing is still, it used to be
Yeah.
easier to do when you had a firm media schedule
yeah,
and
right.
that you had print and you
Yeah.
knew that they were finished at such and such a time. But I agree with you, there are times when you just, if there's bad news to deliver, you deliver it then and you move on.
Yeah, if you own stock in a company and they're going to make an official company announcement
Always.
Friday at 6, you should sell your
Sell.
stock.
Yeah, that's right.
But there is also a message if they're delivering it on a Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock.
They want it gone.
They want it gone.
They want it gone.
A lot of
Which is why
politicians-
we had put out the PR about owning
Yeah.
the marriage thing at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday night. We had to get it done, but I certainly wasn't going to do it 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Other questions? Yay.
So this goes back to the whole knowing your target audience thing. I know you spoke briefly about how you contact the radio stations to gather information. Could you just speak a little bit more about gathering the information about the target audiences, the various groups and individuals and the moms and that kind of thing?
You mean the whole segmenting of the
Yeah,
audience
like
kind
how
of
you
thing?
would tailor things specifically to those different groups.
Good question.
Well, there are companies that help you do that, is the easy answer. We use a company called Scarborough, who's one of the biggest research companies, and they take data from all of their ways. They buy it from virtually everybody, from the XL Center, somehow through the New Britain Rockettes, probably through the Department of Motor Vehicles, wherever. They have everybody's information. And for a price, they will tell you who's coming out to your park. In-house, you can do it. You can run zip codes. You can look around. That's the easiest thing to do. One of the things I love to tell somebody, if I'm looking for a corporate partner and I go to Ocean State Job Lot or to Wendy's or the Hartford Wolfpack, is I'll say, these are our people. I look around and I see all of our people here. But yeah, the short answer for us is that we buy it. Yeah.
And sometimes I do a lot of celebrity golf events, and to find sponsors, we want to marry them up with the right kind of demos of it. So the celebrity golf events that we do, you could just go to Golf Digest and see who the readership is. And the readership is predominantly male, 35 to 40 plus. So when we go to a sponsor, we look for sponsors that marry up to it. So that's how we do it. Because sponsorships is just as important as selling the single ticket. And as both of them shake their heads, because that's money up front that you can get. And it's not going to get rained out, especially with the Rockettes or an event at Rensselaer Field. It could be rained out, and that really impacts you. You want to guarantee money up front, and that's where you get sponsors, and you got to know who your demos are in order to get the right sponsors.
To attract the right sponsors. Right.
You guys obviously talked about like selling tickets. So do you think having notable alums like with the Rockettes, like I don't know if you ever played there, but like Joe Mauer or like with the Wolfpack like JT Miller and Chris Kreider, do you think that influences people going to the games, and why or why not?
That's a good question.
Yeah, from our vantage point, and probably with the minor league hockey, it's probably different than baseball from a connection standpoint. Those people come and go so quickly that it's really just your core fans that have a connection with, Miller or Kreider or whoever it may be. But our company, Comcast Spectacor, owns the Philadelphia Flyers. They're extremely successful off the ice for the last 30 years. They've only won 2 Stanley Cups, and they were in 75 and 76. And trust me, they're getting their mileage out of those guys. It was the Broad Street Bullies. They were known. They basically grew hockey in the Philadelphia area. And they have 2 or 3 of them who are ambassadors that go around and they visit clients, they visit sponsors. They're there every night and shaking hands with people on the concourse. That's where there's a huge connection there between the Flyers fan base and these Broad Street Bullies. That's what the image of the Flyers is all about, tough fighting, all this stuff. From a minor league standpoint, I think we'd like to try and do that. We use the mascot as kind of that hook. It's tough. Baseball is probably a little bit easier because there's more publicity around minor leagues, and people know minor league baseball players, the key ones, because there's more of a following of getting drafted, and people understand who the prospects are. It's getting followed on Baseball Tonight. There's not even an NHL, unless you're on the NHL Network, there's nothing on, right? So you don't know who those people are unless you're a diehard fan. So that's our challenge. We really use the mascot. I think baseball has a little bit more of a leg up on us. So.
You actually had a campaign a couple of years ago, probably before you came, about see the future stars of tomorrow. Kind of
Yeah, and that's a pretty standard campaign element in minor league baseball. To put in context that probably makes more sense, when I was in Pawtucket, virtually everybody who was on the Red Sox team who won the World Series last year was there when I was there. More than half of the players came up through the minor league system. So they're using all of those guys. They're using the fact that the Red Sox won the World Series to do their marketing this year. They're putting a lot of those guys in the ads. It's fair to remind people that you are going to see the future stars of tomorrow today. I don't know that that means a lot to people because they're still not stars. They're still just everyday people. We have an opportunity this year. 2 of the top prospects in all of minor league baseball, not just the Twins, but in all of baseball, are likely going to start the year in New Britain. Byron Buxton and Miguel Sano, who are supposed to be, about 5 years from now, 2 household names. We will really put a lot behind that if that happens and they start together. It won't shake the tree a whole lot. It's going to get the baseball fans out. It's not going to do anything for the moms and dads and the kids looking to do something on a Saturday.
Geographics plays a lot into that too. He's a Minnesota Twins affiliate in Hartford, Connecticut. So, I would say, or in New Britain.
Right.
Most people don't even know, 5 players on the Twins who are, casual baseball fans.
I don't.
In New Britain. Right, yeah, there you go. Right, most of our fans hate the Rangers. Like Hartford,
Yeah.
they hate the Rangers. That's
Yeah.
our biggest challenge. There's some Bruins, like we play Providence, and the Bruins, there'll be more Providence fans in there than Hartford fans because Hartford grew up with the Whalers hating the Rangers.
Right. And the Bruins.
And the Bruins.
Yeah.
There's some areas like Providence is a great example because there's no NHL market there. Their fans are Bruins fans, so now they're seeing their Bruins fans. They can see the next generation of Bruins, and they're going to follow them their whole career. Whereas the people in New Britain, there might be a handful of hardcore people who are following the Twins players, but once they leave, it's going to be, all right, who's coming in?
Does that mean it's an easier conversation with the Pawtucket Red Sox?
Oh,
Since it's Red
absolutely,
Sox?
yeah. One of my biggest challenges with the job, like Chris said, we're a Minnesota Twins affiliate in Connecticut, which is not sexy at all. It was very sexy to be a Red Sox affiliate 40 miles from Boston, particularly from 2004 through 2009, 10, 11, 12 when I was there, because all of these guys who became big stars were there at that time. They won 2 World Series. They broke the curse. That was part of every single conversation. It was also a great party conversation. You know, when I got into baseball, I was like, if I work for a baseball team, every time I go to an event, everybody's going to want to talk to me, which would be awesome. Now I just can't stand to talk about baseball because frankly, I don't even watch it anymore. It's just work for me. I love football, and that sort of appeals to my lifestyle more. With 2 young kids, I can't watch a baseball game every night. But yeah, it was a really big deal in Pawtucket. We really don't talk much about it in New Britain. I mean, we had a couple of guys who rehabbed with the Twins last year, and somebody would come through and say, so-and-so is going to be here tonight. I'm like, I don't know, are they a politician or they played for the Twins, it turns out.
But this is a good example. The New Britain Rockettes at one time was a Red Sox affiliate. And they were averaging back then about 160, 170,000 fans per game, for a season. That wasn't really great. When new guys came in, they started remarketing, repositioning the team, they jumped up to 400,000. And it was a Minnesota Twin affiliate. So here was a great case where you took something that was a negative, not having any connection, and you sold the experience on the field.
Right, and being in the middle of Connecticut, it helps that you're right in the middle of Yankee fans and Red Sox fans, so you're not really turning anybody off. And to that point, if Pawtucket lost their affiliation tomorrow and they became a New York Giants affiliate, that would really hurt them. I think that it hurt in Norwich. There's a single-A team in Norwich. They were Yankees affiliate for a long time. They lost that affiliation. They became a Giants affiliate.
Which is even worse.
It really hurt, yeah.
So that shows you the power of good marketing. You need the good product on the field, but just because you're a Red Sox affiliate, it didn't help the old team because they didn't really market it. They didn't tell people that that was the case. And being the Twins, it didn't matter at all. But actually, I think being a Ranger fan, take my son for example, when he was little, he was a Rockettes fan, baseball. When he got older, when he got into his teens, he was a big Wolfpack and Rangers fan. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it was an age difference because of that. And also he felt that there was more of a direct connection with the major leagues being a Wolfpack fan because you saw the players come down from New York more readily and you could see them in your own market, where with the Twins, they played out of the market, so you couldn't follow them. So I think that was key, at least for him.
I got 5 more minutes to ask questions. Yeah.
How do you guys build fan loyalty for these teams? And then how is like the loyal fan experience different from somebody who's just coming for like an occasional game?
Customer service.
Yeah.
Our season ticket holder base is not very big, but that's our loyal fan. That's the Hartford hockey fan. We spent most of our advertising and marketing trying to attract the casual fan and single game purchasers and groups. But it's really, growing your loyal database or your fans is important. So you want to have that customer experience. We have account executives who follow up, call people after every other game. Hey, how you doing?
These are they're calling.
The season ticket holders.
Really?
Right, yeah. So call up. Hey, how's your experience been? Maybe once a month they get a phone call. They're there at the games. They meet them. There's rewards. There's benefits. So having, like right now we're going through our renewal process for next year's season ticket holders. So we'll have an early bird package, we'll call it, where if you come in and you renew prior to March 1st, you'll get the ability to have, you'll be part of a season ticket holder barbecue next early fall, where it's just the early bird season ticket holders are coming through. So it's kind of what rewards, what benefits are you giving people, and what options are you giving them, and just kind of following up customer service, because that's your loyal fans. You always want to cater to that. But we don't spend a lot of time marketing and advertising to them. It's all about groups and single pitch purchasers. It's just all about customer experience or customer service, and catering to those people.
And it's not about
word of mouth is big with that too, because then they'll grow and.
And it's not about wins and losses.
Oh.
You could lose virtually every game. It's a line that I've used last time.
It's in the syllabus.
It's in my syllabus.
Actually, I quoted it in the syllabus.
You can't, let me see.
I did.
You can't guarantee a win, but you can guarantee a great time. That you could always deliver on. And if you keep doing that, you'll keep the loyalty building.
It's the experience for us.
Yeah.
Like, the hockey game happens to be going on. Like, I'm a diehard hockey fan, so I like that. And you'll have a handful of people there, but the majority of the people there, they're not paying attention to what's going on in the game. They don't even know if they won or lost their last
Right.
game. They're not even gonna know if they won this game. My girlfriend showed up, watched the game, and we were home. She's like, "Who won?" And I was like, "Really?" But that's.
I know if the game went more than 9 innings, but
Well,
I don't
she's
know if
got it.
anyone.
But it's interesting because if you look at the media,
Yeah.
the media tends to cover the Wolfpack more than minor league baseball.
I'd argue that, but okay.
But listen, my experience, and I asked Paul Doyle, who
Yeah.
he's a reporter with the Harvard Current, why are you here and you're not at a minor league baseball game, for example? And he said, there's a strong connection. We can see the players here, and the fans. While the fan experience is good, they wins and losses do play into the scenario a little bit. That's at least what he said. I don't may necessarily agree with it, but that's what he
It
said.
doesn't hurt. The best marketing is
Yeah.
winning. I mean, that's, you're never gonna challenge that, but we have the worst team in the league right now, and we're
Right.
steadily seeing an increase in things, so. I think you can go both ways. I mean, winning's never gonna hurt you, losing can, but
Well, I think like with the Rockettes, the players are going to Minnesota, whereas with the AHL team, they're staying to a team that people could understand.
Sure.
Am I off on that?
No, that's true. And to sort of get back to the original question, who asked the original question? Right. People who go to 71 baseball games a year are a different kind of person.
Right.
They are people who want to be hugged daily, right? So I'll use that expression all the
Hugged.
time. I don't mean it literally, but
Put that in
somebody who
context.
comes out to a baseball game 71 days a year, they're not there because they want to watch 71 baseball games. They're there because it is a home away from home. It's a place. It's a community. They want to be hugged. I politic during games. That's what I do. I spend time in the suites. I walk around the stands. There's only a couple of hundred people who come to every single game, but I hug them every single night. And again, I don't mean literally, but I will go and talk to them. I'll say hello. If they have family visiting, you can almost be sure that they will renew their tickets next year if you go and make a real big deal about them while their family from out of town is visiting, while they're at the game. It takes a lot to go to that many games, or even, do you guys 36 games? Or
37, yeah.
it takes a lot to go to those games. So that would make you a very special kind of
Right.
person, I'm guessing.
Right,
But,
and scheduling plays into it. With the Rockets having so many games, they just can't be on the weekend. And with the Wolfpack, I think a couple years ago, the AHL changed the scheduling to they cut down the number of games in the season in order to have more games on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which makes a big difference.
Yeah.
The Wolfpack plays during the winter. The Rockets play during the summer when time's off, so they have a little more flexibility on that. So scheduling is
yeah,
a key
but
part.
just in terms of creating fan loyalty, it's having somebody go out and recognize those people as often as possible. Somebody, when they asked a question earlier, mentioned a concert at Gillette Stadium. When I was considering taking the job in New Britain, when I was at Pawtucket, I thought I was going to be there for the rest of my life. I was on a good track. It was a good place, and I was taken care of. But when I was considering to go to New Britain, I said, well, I should really open this up and think about what I want to do. If I'm going to move my family, I'm going to do something else. And my wife and I happened to go see Bruce Springsteen at Gillette Stadium, and I'd always kind of thought I loved the Patriots. Maybe this is something I'll look into. But I was like, we're sitting in there, and there's 60,000 people there. I said, I could never know everybody. I could never know everybody who works at every concession stand. I could never know every single usher. I could never know every single season ticket holder. I want something that's smaller that I can actually get my arms around. The most common question that I get asked, aside from what do you do all winter long, is are you going to move up and work in Major League Baseball? For me, the answer is no, for two reasons. I like being able to get my arms around it, and two, I make more than 90% of people who work for Major League Baseball teams, because part of the pay of working for a Major League Baseball team is that you work for a Major League Baseball team.
Any other questions before I let these guys go?
Oh, I had one more thing about the gum.
Oh, yes, the gum, the gum.
Okay, we talked about today, messaging is important, branding is important, knowing who your market's important, media is important. I wanted to make a thing that you all have the gum, or if you don't have the gum, there's extra ones up here. Anybody here ever heard Charles Wrigley? What is Do you know what he?
No, I've heard the story. but-
Okay, you heard the story. Okay, Charles Wrigley used to own a baseball team, the Chicago Cubs. He also started a gum company called Wrigley's Gum in Chicago. And back in the 30s, Wrigley Gum was the #1 gum in America. So Charles Wrigley said, I'm #1, I don't have to advertise anymore. So he stopped advertising. He fell to #3, and it cost him 4 times as much money to get back to #1. So even if you're at the top, you still got to stay and reinforce your message over and over again.
And the quote I heard after he went through that was, when people asked him why he advertised so much, which at the time he had like 85% of the chewing gum markets, he said, just because the airplane's up in the air doesn't mean you shut off the engine. So he obviously learned his
Could I
lesson.
write that down?
Yeah, no, I'd said that, Charles Wrigley did. All right, I'm gonna let these guys go, stay put, I just wanna tell you about next week, so give me like 5 minutes to kiss them all goodbye, and obviously, clearly, I need to give them a hug. Could you give these guys a hand? They left the Quinnipiac.